So just quick introduction. Who are we? Who is Accenture Federal Services? So let's start with Accenture LLP, global firm, 460,000 plus people, serving 80% of the Fortune 500 clients. Accenture Federal Services is a wholly owned subsidiary, and so we're about 9,500 plus people, mostly located in the DC area, and we serve only federal government. So we don't do any state or local, so it's all the three-letter agencies that you can talk about. So what does that look like exactly? And so we like starting here to just kind of set the stage in terms of the scope of our solutions and the problem sets that we're attacking. So 320 million customers is our customer base. $4 trillion is the budget of the federal government. There's millions and millions of vehicles. If you think about the Army and the DoD, Air Force, even the US Postal Service has over 1 million vehicles that they're tracking in terms of maintenance costs and collisions and insurance and repairs, and about 2.5 million employees. So that's the largest employer in the United States, and it's one of the largest employers in the entire world. So anytime we're talking about rapid prototyping, anytime we're talking about our solutions, these are global problems with hundreds of millions of people that are being affected. Anyone know what this image is? It's the last image of the Curiosity rover that just went dark a couple weeks ago, or a couple months ago now. And its last message, it's pretty poetic. This is like a poetic interpretation. My battery is low and it's getting dark. So the reason I put this up here is, again, to kind of prove a point of where our problem space is. So Curiosity was launched 14 years ago. So 2005. Think about the technology that you had with you in 2005, right? It's flip phones. I was still in college. I had much longer hair. I was in the engineering program, right? Looked a little different. But we sent, this piece and hunk of metal through space into another planet, and it lasted 14 years. It was only supposed to last like 2 years or 3 years, I don't know the exact, but it lasted 14 years, and it sent back all these amazing pictures, including this, which is not stars. This is actually just a sandstorm. It's fuzz. It looks really cool, but it was its last image.
Yeah, and to really add on to what Dave, kind of just honed in on, the problem landscape that our government faces is extremely vast and complex. And to that point, there's room for innovation all over, whether we're talking about, again, DoD came up with GPS, vaccines, health and longevity. The problems are so complex, it'd be really nice to invite our commercial partners in and try to solve everything for us. But the government is on their own in a lot of cases, and they're working hard. And again, that's the importance of rapid prototyping.
Yeah. And these are game-changing innovations, life-changing innovations, world-scale innovations. The internet, right? Where would we all be without the internet? That was an innovation, an investment from the federal government. Google, National Science Foundation, we wouldn't be here without investments from the government. And so how do we solve these massive problems, these intergalactic problems, these world-changing problems quickly? We use rapid prototyping. So we both work outside of the Accenture Federal Digital Studio. So we have a very cool, sleek urban place down in Washington, D.C. Lots of wood and exposed beams and hip people with cool laptops and cool haircuts and cool shoes solving these problems. And so we kind of approach the problem in 4 different ways. So vision and organization, value and design, technology, and scaling. And I'm going to step through in detail what we mean about each of those. But first is kind of our mindset. It's the Michelin star restaurant versus a Zagat restaurant. So when we do delivery for our federal customers, when we're on a project for Agency X, and we bring our domain expertise to solve those mission problems, that's our Zagat approach. That's the Mexican restaurant that has the best burrito in the entire city, and they make that burrito every single day, and they do it really excellent. We take the Michelin star approach, right? So every night, we have a different menu, a tasting menu. We work with seasonal ingredients. We work with the latest technology. Blockchain, sure, let's try to add blockchain to something, right? Cloud services, sure, the new cloud services that were just announced this morning, Anthos, right? We're gonna already start playing with that. Here, my lead DevOps engineer is ready to get his hands on that. So vision and organization. I really like starting with this because I think every time you're approaching a problem, you have to think about where you're going to be currently, where you're going to be 3 months, 6 months, 18 months, and 5 years out, right? It's the road that you're running towards. So we have capabilities and we have solutions. So capabilities are our verticals. You know, we're not going to be everything to everybody. We're going to do web and mobile development. We're going to do DevOps. We're going to do platforms. And we're going to do applied intelligence. And then we're going to have our solutions, right? And so later on today, we're not going to just bore you to death by PowerPoint. We're going to show you a bunch of our actual rapid prototypes, what we're going to build. And one of those solutions is the next generation contact center that Mike's been working on really hard over the last 2 weeks. And then again, people. So I want to iterate on this point. The type of people that we're bringing into our organization are non-traditional people. Mike has a background in fintech. We have people who are econ background, people who are non-traditional federal consultants. And we bring them because they bring a wider range of thinking to these hard problems. But most important, and I have it bolded at the bottom there, is the ability to learn, right? So we're working with the new, with things that are announced in the morning, right? There's nobody who's an expert. There's no job description that I can post and say, you know, let's have 5 years of, Anthos experience. It just doesn't exist. So we need to adapt on the fly. Value and design. So me and Mike work very closely together with our human-centered design team. And so human-centered design, that was kind of a new term to me when I started working for the Accenture Federal Digital Studio. And it's basically a fancy way of saying we put the human first, right? We don't take a technology-first approach. How's the human interacting with the systems? What's the human problem? What's the human experience? And so we do these things, they're called design sessions. We bring in all of our stakeholders. We bring in the operators. We bring in the security experts. We bring in smart folks like Mike who are, have an engineering background. And we all get in a big room, and it's very granola, but it's very effective. And we do sticky notes and whiteboards, and we come up with, here's the main issues. Here's what we want to solve, okay? And then, once we start going through, let's iterating on, the technology approach and how do we actually, is it feasible? And what's the return on investment? Maybe we can solve it, but it costs $100 million, and the problem, is only a $500,000 type of problem. Okay, well, let's not actually do that. And then, we talk about our business process redesign and user interface and user experience. And something we like to talk about within the studio is our liquid approach. So liquid expectations. What does that mean? That means our customer base, our 320 million customers that we're supporting within the federal government, have expectations that their day-to-day lives, that their interactions with the federal government are going to be the same as their day-to-day lives. So if they pull up a phone app and they order a car, it's a touch of a button. They want to have that same simple experience when they're interacting with IRS, Social Security, whatever agency they're going to get their driver's license renewed. And how do we do this?
Yeah, so a rapid prototyping team, essentially a software development team, is not like your traditional development team, right? If I'm on a contract for 1 to 5 years, we're going to get some pretty strict requirements on what it is we're developing, right? And with that, I can go out and search for a developer Y who has capability X. And I can, be pretty stringent on my interviewing them to figure out if they're going to be really capable of doing this job. Like Dave said earlier, we're not looking for that within our team. We need generalists that can solve, again, any one of these problems in this vast landscape of problems. So while we do want to standardize on efficiencies like JavaScript, that's kind of taken over the full stack and even get into the data world a bit, we want to lean heavily on our vendor partners and managed services and be able to provide custom integrations into cool capabilities like Cloud ML Engine or Contact Center AI. And we want engineers who can do that with Python because maybe that's what our clients are working with in their current systems. Maybe they're working on Salesforce CRM, or maybe it's ServiceNow, and the way those APIs work need to be configured differently. And Salesforce has its own programming language. Again, we just want those generalist engineers capable of taking on any problem and solving it, with the constraints that they're given. And to that point, engineers are lazy. I mean, they're efficient. So any mundane task that kind of falls below a value line of, mission value, like if I'm writing code, most of the time most of the code I'm writing for this application, I'm hoping it's producing some type of value for the end user. Anything that's not, we're talking about infrastructure, logging in into VMs, scaling out the underlying platform. We want to automate that as much as possible. So we have awesome engineers like Jordan Taylor here who sets up an entire infrastructure for us in Kubernetes and Pivotal Cloud Foundry and Red Hat. Again, a broader range of technologies because we want to be able to provide for all our clients the same way that we do internally in terms of development and providing efficiencies in that regard.
So we talked about the problem set. We talked about how we organize our rapid prototyping team. Now, how do we actually go about and implement this? So say we start with our problem statement, right? There's a federal agency. They have a legacy support desk, and they're trying to think about modernization, And modernization means a lot of things to a lot of different people across the stakeholders. And so they're trying to balance the risk between, maintaining that domain expertise for the people who've been supporting the mission for years and years, and costs. Like costs are a real driver, and using automation, and generally using automation to help improve the domain experts and ultimately, deliver a better value experience to the end customer. And so you have some people that are viewing this, all right, well, they control the purse strings. Let's introduce CRM tools. Let's introduce our automation. It's going to drive down our contracting costs. We'll have more revenue to invest in additional areas. Or maybe, because they're federally funded and their budget got cut this year for a political reason. Or maybe you have people who've seen this before, CRM tools, it won't fit within our mission. Like people won't adopt it. This is the same story we've gone through again. It doesn't work, never does. And then some people, they've been doing their job for 20 years and they don't want to change, right? They think the way they've created it is the best way to get it done. And then some people are, let's be real, there's the human element. Some people, when there's automation and technology being introduced that's new, they get worried, People have families to support. They're worried about job loss, right? And so we need to take into consideration all of these different stakeholders, all of these different concerns, all of these different risks, the people, the technology, the cost, into how we actually build the problems. And so we think rapid prototyping is a really good way to do this because we can fail fast. We can build something very quickly, and when I say quickly, I'm talking about 1 day, 1 week, using 1 or 2 engineers, or 2 weeks with 1 person grinding it out, building out the next generation contact center, which we're going to show you in a couple minutes. And then actually getting that in front of our customers really quickly and getting the end users' feedback and then iterating over that.
So the development team, your rapid prototyping team, you want to take that problem statement and you want to be careful with how you unpacked it, right? Hopefully you're leaning in heavily on design methods and methodologies such as human-centered, user-centric design. That way you're working with a team who really understands that problem they've given you. But with that, I want our team to be keen on that problem too. Because I don't want to just take a problem and develop something that's not going to resonate or that's not going to be useful, or worst case, that can never be implemented with a certain federal client, right? We really need to consider what's going to be feasible to a certain extent. We want to be fit for federal in terms of compliance, current systems, current solutions, and integrations. Then we can move into a layer of usability. And okay, well, is it what we're going to build be is it going to be usable? Like again, in the context of federal, it's pretty important. And then useful. This is where we get to have fun. All right, how can we add some spice? How can we add some pizzazz and really make any solution we develop within 2 weeks cool? And then if with that on top, if we've done these things, we're going to have some time to really provide some efficiencies with the solution. And if we're providing any type of solution that makes the mission more efficient for our end users, hopefully that provides a joyful experience. If I want to get from point A to point B and I can push a button and somebody's going to come pick me up and take me there, that's a joyful experience. That exists all over the federal landscape. Cool, so back to the problem statement. We have a service desk, legacy service desk that's been shut down. We have a CRM that's been brought into the Bureau's organization, and they want to know how to use it. They come to our group and say, how are we going to use this thing? It's not really fitting our mission. How can we make it relevant? We've got in the budget to explore AI, to explore some cool solution. What can we do? Help us. And what we're about to demonstrate is essentially that next, how do you pronounce it, Dave? The next generation contact center.
Yeah, so about 9 months ago, we were very lucky to be added as an alpha partner for Contact Center AI. And so this is what you're about to see is our second generation of working through that. We built out one over the last 6 months, and we showed it to a lot of our federal customers as they came through and got a lot of feedback in terms of, how does this integrate with our CRM tool? How do you have omni-channel support? And so what we're about to show you in a couple minutes, this is our reference architecture. We worked with Google as a strong partner. We worked with Salesforce as our CRM tool that we've integrated, and then Twilio. We're going to show you an omni-channel, the ability to do telephony, live streaming to an operator, and having agent assist working in place. So that means I'm actually having a customer calling an operator. I'm splitting off of that actual raw audio file, doing transcription on the fly, searching a knowledge base, and then in real time showing that knowledge base to my operator so that they can resolve the issue of the customer faster and more efficient, providing them the information that they need. And we're using Contact Center AI and Dialogflow to create a single virtual agent that you can interact with via chat, text, or telephony. Did I miss anything? He's the engineer. He's the smart guy who actually built this. Okay, so we made a very California demo. It's about avocados. And so with that, if we can switch to the live demo screen. So what everybody's seeing right here is our Salesforce operator pane. So this is an example of what your support desk operator would see. And I'll walk through the different panels and what they mean. And again, just the level set. This is 2 weeks of Mike's time doing some engineering as his part-time job to get ready for this. We were grinding this out, to be truthful, last night, like true engineers do. And by last night, I mean like 2 hours ago is when we finally got it working. And we rushed here, and the support staff was extremely gracious to let us run through this in practice to make sure the phone calls worked with the mics. So we're not nervous at all, because it'll work. It worked a little bit ago, but it is a world premiere, so enjoy. Mike's going to play the role of our avocado researcher or farmer, whatever one he decides to pick. It'll be up to him. And then let's get started.
So I'm a researcher out in the field, and I'm experiencing some issue. And I've been told I've got this intelligence service desk I can call to be given some insights and context that maybe the virtual agent that couldn't give me, that I've been working with. And we'll show you the virtual agent chat afterwards. So I'm calling in. It's going through the call infrastructure now. Twilio provides. Our David, he hit phone. We just want to make sure we capped off the last one. There we go.
Looks like Mike Ramos, avocado researcher, is calling me. Hi, Mr. Ramos. How can I help you today?
Hi, I'm experiencing issues on my avocado farm.
All right, so we're going to pause here, and there's a lot to unpack of what just happened, right? It seems pretty simple. So I'm over here in case, I wish there was a laser pointer of some sort. Okay, so Mike built a mobile application that takes his voice and actually does the transcription on the client. So it does the transcription on the phone, just because in terms of latency, that's a lot faster than sending the raw audio to Dialogflow, having Dialogflow do the transcription, and then do some of the intent matching. So the mobile app is actually splitting the audio file. So the audio file is being sent. We couldn't get because of the mics and stuff like that, the way you could hear it, but we actually have it set up so you can do the talking back and forth between the operator. And the transcription is being sent to Dialogflow and Contact Center AI to actually do 3 things. One, the top here were suggested responses. It's interpreting what Mike was saying, asking about his avocado problems, and it's matching it to our knowledge base. So our knowledge base is literally key values. It's questions and answers. So it tries to match it on the question, which you see here. And if I expand it as the operator, I have some suggested content that I can ask back. Now, at the bottom here, suggested fulfillment, this is where it's matching on intents. So intents are, think of them as more static type of workflows, your generic chatbot type of interface. So if Mike was calling about password resets, we might match here. It says, easy way to reset a password, click a button, had that fulfillment working. We have it implemented right now, but the actual interface isn't, we didn't get to that yet. But Mike created a machine learning model that predicts the future prices of avocados.
Yeah, that's the other part. We use Cloud ML Engine to essentially create a model, a regression model that this researcher might want to use out in the field given the data they're collecting. And then an intent that's built in that would show up as just price insight on this potential field in crop yield. And what you would see there is that just being integrated into Salesforce and then plugging in with your relevant Salesforce data sets.
And then the third most exciting part over here is related documents. So we uploaded a bunch of PDFs. You can upload HTML. Essentially, it's unstructured information. And that's when Mike's asking a question, we're doing the transcription. It's pulling out the entities, and it's going through that unstructured text, and it's actually finding which relevant documents that he might that I might send him. And so I might be able to share this link with Mike, the avocado researcher, on, choosing an avocado variety. I'm sorry, I'm not an expert in avocados yet. All right. So I'm going to ask Mike, I'm sorry to hear that you have problems with your avocado. How can I help you more specifically?
Specifically, I'm experiencing problems with root rot.
So as you see, went through, it actually pulls up different suggestions. There are fungicides, Mike, that are available from the nursery, and there are a number of things you can do before applying something like that. So instead of an operator having to, listen, interpret, open up another system, do a search, I have this right here, I can do a call resolution much faster.
And typically, you wouldn't want your rapid prototyping cycles to be, just 2 weeks. Given 4 weeks, this becomes a full integration within Salesforce, full integration within, creating actual reports and distributing throughout the CRM to the right people.
All right, that's it. Well, thank you everybody for your time. We're here. If you want to talk to us, really appreciate you attending the session. Thank you.